What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And by the time you guys are seeing this, it'll be 2023. And I hope you guys had a happy new year. I'll talk about what my plan is, at least regarding content, for the first 3 months of 2023 at the end of the video. So without further delay, remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe because we need to get that percentage up, man. And let's get on with the video. Their journey down Route 203 isn't super noteworthy. All that really happens is that Ash and Barry challenge every trainer they come across. Despite their few losses, their win rate's about 80%, and even Dawn takes a crack at it sometimes. However, she's still way more focused on improving her performances. When they arrive at Oreburgh City, Ash and Barry head straight for the gym, only to find out that the gym leader is in the mines right now. Because they aren't that far away, Barry and Ash race off to the mines to see who can find the gym leader first. After asking around for a bit, they do end up finding Rorik, and they do convince him to go back to the gym and fight them. When they get back to the gym, Barry begins to argue with Ash on why he should go first. After a minute of them just arguing, Dawn just gets kinda sick of it and suggests for them to use rock, paper, scissors to solve it like they always do. 2 rounds later, Barry ends up winning, meaning that he gets to challenge Rorik first. As each battler goes to their respective side of the field, Dawn's Chimchar pops out of its Pokeball to watch the match. Barry begins with Shinx, and in response, Rorik sends out his ace, Cranidos. While Shinx is at a disadvantage, it does put in the work by using Bite and throwing Cranidos against rocks. While it's able to hold its own for a little bit, it is eventually taken out. And Barry's second Pokemon, Starly, gets taken out even quicker. Barry's final Pokemon, Turtwig, is barely able to sweep through Rorik's entire team, as not only does it have the type advantage, but thanks to Leech Seed draining their health, Turtwig is barely able to make it by. So Rorik hands him the coal badge and requests Ash to wait one more day for his challenge, as he wants to make sure that his Pokemon are all healed up and in top form first, which annoys Ash, but it'll give him some time to train, so he agrees to wait. The following day, it's just Ash and his Pokemon training. Since Barry already had fought Rorik, he tries to help Ash, but he's a little too smug about him already having a badge before him that Ash just goes off to train by himself. Eventually, the day of the gym battle comes, and they begin with Onix and Riolu. The Blue Fox begins by using Vacuum Wave to deal a good amount of damage. Onix then throws out an early Stealth Rock, which shocks Ash, as he wasn't expecting it. However, Ash can use it to his advantage, as he has Riolu use Copycat and sets up a Stealth Rock on Rorik's side as well. Riolu then starts to use Agility to make her way over to Onix. However, Onix stops it using Screech. While the little Blue Fox is disoriented, Onix follows up by using Slam. It slams its tail into Riolu, sending her into a nearby rock. It follows up by using Double Edge. Thankfully, Riolu is able to get up on time, and she jumps over Onix, grabbing onto its horns. As Riolu holds onto it, she keeps using Vacuum Wave on Onix's head to chip away at its health. Onix is eventually able to shake her off, sending her sky high into the air. Rorik orders his Onix to jump and use Double Edge. Riolu, however, uses Vacuum Wave to not only send Onix crashing back down, but push itself higher into the air. As Riolu rapidly descends, she copies Double Edge and slams into Onix. It's revealed that Onix has fainted, with Riolu standing victorious. Rorik compliments Ash for training his Riolu to be so good. When Rorik sends out his second Pokemon, Geodude, it seems like Riolu can't really hold itself up anymore and just collapses, as she was using the last bit of her strength to remain standing. Ash picks her up, telling her that she did a good job and can now rest up. He hands her over to Dawn and continues the battle with Baniri. Ash begins the battle by having Baniri use Pound. However, this does little damage to the rock Pokemon. This allows for Geodude to land a super effective Seismic Toss. After the first one, Geodude tries to go for a second. However, it's quickly countered by Baniri's Double Kick. And that's pretty much how the rest of this battle plays out, with Geodude trying to attack, and Baniri just countering it with a Double Kick followed up by a Pound, until eventually Geodude is knocked out. Rorik's final Pokemon is his Cranidos, and despite Ash's previous strategy being somewhat decent, it doesn't work with Cranidos. While Baniri is still able able to land attacks, Rorik has caught on how to counter Ash's little strategy here. Eventually, Baniri takes one too many headbutts and gets knocked out. After thanking it for fighting so hard, he recalls it and sends out his last Pokemon, Croagunk. Cranios starts charging at him with a headbutt. Ash orders for Croagunk to dodge and use Brick Break. So Croagunk jumps out of the way of Cranios' headbutt and uses a double Brick Break. The frog Pokemon is able to hit Cranidos twice in the thigh. Once Cranidos gets its balance back, Croagunk gets hit by a flamethrower. Rorik decides to keep using flamethrower as Croagunk won't be able to get close enough to use Brick Break. Because of this, Croagunk has to use the rocks in the gym's arena as cover. And whenever Cranios stops to catch its breath, Croagunk runs from its hiding spot and gets closer to Cranidos. Eventually, when Croagunk gets close enough, Cranios switches over to Zen Headbutt. Ash tells Croagunk to dodge out of the way, however Croagunk doesn't listen. It instead uses Poison Sting on Cranidos' leg, causing it to trip over and fall. Croagunk then jumps over to finish it off with one final Brick Break. As soon as Ash is declared the winner, he goes over and hugs Croagunk, thanking him for the victory. So Ash has attained the first badge of the region, the Coal Badge. Chimchar gets all fired up as it wants to battle against Rorik. However, Dawn tells him to keep that same energy, and there's no way they can lose their next performance. Chimchar just gives a saddened look as it looks towards the arena. Following the gym battle, the trio celebrate both their victories by having a big feast for them and their Pokemon. Our gang doesn't spend too much time in Oreburgh City as Barry is very insistent on heading to the next gym. After deciding that they're gonna challenge the gym in Eterna City, they head back down Route 203. Where Dawn manages to catch a very disobedient Pachirisu, who causes a bit of trouble for them. After she releases it, Dawn realizes her mistake and goes back to get it, but by the time she returns, it's long gone. When arriving back at Jubilife City, they come across a reporter who asks if any of them are trainers, and if they're thinking about challenging the gyms. Ash and Barry very confidently say yes, and show off their badges. And because of that, the reporter asks for an interview in the form of a street battle. The boys of course say yes and get a little nervous when they find out that it's gonna be a live broadcast. The reporter and her cameraman send out a Shinx and Machop while Barry and Ash use Turtwig and Baniri. The fight gets broadcasted to the Jubilife TV building where a couple of people actually stop and watch the battle go down. Despite their synergy not being all that great, Ash and Barry are able to defeat them. After answering a few more questions, they head north for Eterna City. As our heroes are walking towards Route 204, three strange looking people walk out of an alleyway. In a monotone and almost emotionless voice, they demand for our trio to hand over all their Pokemon, or suffer the consequences. Of course, none of them want to do that, causing them to break into a Pokemon battle. After these kids humiliate these grown-ass adults, Dawn mentions that the symbols on their costumes look familiar. But before she can think too much into it, Barry has already started running ahead. Down Route 204, our heroes once again challenge every trainer they come across. And about 70% of the time, our heroes come out on top. Because of their constant battling, it takes them a little longer than it would have normally for them to arrive at Floroma Town. When arriving, they hear about a Poffin making class, and Dawn forces the boys to take part in it. Of course, all the Poffins that they make end up sucking. While Ash and Barry pretty much give up on it almost immediately, Dawn decides to keep at it, and eventually her Pokemon start to actually really enjoy them. A little later at the Pokemon Center, Dawn and Ash decide to use its battlefield to train for their next contest. Ash is working on how to make his battling a lot more appealing, while also getting Baniri and Croagunk used to performing in contests, while Dawn has to work on a whole new strategy for her Pokemon, as Zoe seemed to have bested her last time. Midway into their training session, an old face appears. It's Kenny, and of course he immediately begins by teasing Dawn. After a bit of teasing, Dawn has had enough of it, and challenges him to a Pokemon battle. If she wins, then he has to stop teasing her. Kenny, however, declines, saying that he wants to battle someone stronger. Plus, if he knows her, she'll be in this town's contest, and they can just battle in the finals if she makes it there. He then turns to Ash and asks if he's willing to battle. This makes Dawn unbelievably angry, while Ash is excited and accepts his challenge. Ash and Kenny step onto the battlefield, sending out Baniri and Piplup. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Barry decides to go explore the town while Ash and Dawn practice, as he was getting kinda bored just watching them. He eventually comes across a man who is selling honey. The man convinces him to buy it by saying that this honey attracts wild Pokemon. Barry is intrigued, so he buys some and heads down Route 205. Barry finds a nice big tree that he slathers in honey and hides in a nearby bush, waiting for Pokemon to show up. About 15 minutes go by and no Pokemon show up. This causes Barry to throw a tantrum about how he wasted his time and money. However, his tantrum stopped when a little girl bumps into him, who he threatens to find for some big cash until he notices that she's crying. Barry, feeling kinda bad, he tries to stop the tears, but he can't really do it alone, so he brings out his Pokemon. They're able to get the girl to calm down enough to tell Barry what's wrong, and she says some funny looking guys with short blue hair took her father and locked them out of the Valley Windworks. This description reminds him of the guys they ran into at Jubilife, but if they're anything like those guys, this should be no problem. Barry tells her that he himself will go out and save her dad from those bad guys. The girl is so happy that she hugs him. Barry then realizes that he can't leave her here and he can't take her with him, so he has Starly escort her back to where Dawn and Ash are. When he arrives to the Valley Windworks, there are two grunts outside. However, he is quick to dispose of them. Back with Ash and Kenny, their battle has just begun, with Beneria using Quick Attack to dodge Piplup's Bubble Beam. Beneria gets close enough that it's about to land a Thunder Punch. However, this is when Starly and the little girl arrive. She quickly explains what has happened to her dad and Barry. Dawn says that he's an idiot for going alone, so they need to quickly decide what they should do. Kenny elects to take the girl to the police and get Officer Jenny, while Ash elects to go fight. Dawn remains a little indecisive for a bit before deciding to go help Barry, as Kenny should be strong enough to take care of the little girl by himself. When they enter the Valley Windworks, there are multiple grunts knocked out. After a bit more searching, they finally find Barry healing up his Shinx and Turtwig. Barry, with the cockiest of smiles, says that you two are so slow, he's gonna have to fight him, as he has almost cleared out this building from those Galactic Team guys. Dawn quietly walks up to Barry and hits him on the head, calling him an idiot for coming alone. Ash also scolds him, saying that they would have helped clear out these guys if he had just come to them. After Barry threatens to double their fine, our heroes continue through the building. After what seems like endless amount of grunts that show up, they do make it to the control room, where the father shouts out to them to stop. Heeding his warning, they stop just inches away from being killed by a Bronzor's gyro ball. And when they look up, they see a lady with red hair being held up by a Yanmega. Barry, very panicked and anger, says that she's crazy. Her Pokemon nearly killed them. She's gonna have to pay up a lot of money. The lady says that was kind of the point. Dawn frantically asks why are they doing this, and Mars says that they need the power that's created here to achieve their goals, or at least one of them. If they insist on getting in her way, she'll have to get rid of them. Otherwise, they're free to turn around and go play hero somewhere else. After Ash says there's no way he's letting them get away with it, she sends out her Purugly, and in response, Ash and Barry send out their starters. Dawn wants to go ahead and help the scientist, however Mars sends out Zubat, forcing her to fight alongside Barry and Ash. Purugly begins by using hypnosis to put Riolu to sleep, but thankfully Barry hands Ash an awakening. The now awake Riolu then retaliates with a copycat, but Purugly dodges the hypnosis and lands a very strong scratch on Riolu. Turtwig tries to use Razor Leaf, however it's blocked by Bronzor's Gyro Ball. It's then slammed against the wall by Bronzor's Psychic Attack. Chimchar, meanwhile, is having the most trouble out of all of them against Zubat, as he is way more underleveled compared to Ash and Barry's mons. However, because of this, Dawn realizes that if they switch up opponents, they can possibly win this, by defeating the two weaker Pokemon and eventually ganging up on Purugly. With this new strategy in mind, Riolu goes in for an agility, and as it gets close to Purugly, she suddenly switches directions at the last minute to hit Zubat with a Poison Fang. Following this, Turtwig lands a Leech Seed on Purugly, temporarily immobilizing it, while Chimchar uses Ember on Bronzor. Mars quickly realizes what they're trying to do and tries to stop them. However, the trio are able to stick to their new opponents. During the fight, Zubat ends up poisoning Riolu, and so Ash calls it back and brings out Beneria. Thanks to Thunder Punch, it quickly defeats Zubat and moves over to help Chimchar. Bronzor proves to be much more difficult as it can handle both of them with Psychic. Using Quick Attack, Baneri is able to dodge most of Bronzor's gyro balls. However, Chimchar isn't so lucky, as it gets hit multiple times, and as Bronzor goes to finish it off, Baneri pushes Chimchar out of the way. This takes out the bunny, forcing Ash to bring back Riolu, who uses Copycat to use Chimchar's fire moves. When Bronzor uses Gyro Ball again, our two Mons sorta play volleyball with it by using Fire Punch. Ultimately, Chimchar finishes off Bronzor, and they turn their attention to Purugly. At this point, Barry is down to just Shinx, and when Purugly starts fighting the other two, it quickly takes them out. Even with Krogunk and Badoo joining in, they still struggle, as it takes our trio finding some sort of synergy to actually stand a chance. Like Badoo uses Leaf Storm as a cover for Krogunk and Shinx to get in close. Unfortunately, even with a brand new evolution in Luxio, they still don't stand a chance, as they aren't used to working together like this. First Badoo falls, and then Luxio goes down, leaving Krogunk to fight alone. And while he can hold his own somewhat, Krogunk is really tired. Thankfully, one of the grunts show up saying that the police are on their way. Mars scoffs, saying that he better be satisfied with the energy they've gathered here. She then recalls Purugly, saying that she had fun battling them. However, she's got to go now. If they ever meet again, they won't live to tell the tale. A bunch of grunts then file in, and she disappears into the crowd. The grunts then begin battling Krogunk so Mars can escape. Krogunk puts up whatever fight it has left, taking out 2 more Pokemon before it falls to its knees unconscious. Despite the fact that they have no more usable Pokemon, Ash refuses to stand down. Just as the grunts Pokemon charge at the young kids, a couple of more Pokemon show up. There's a bunch of Growlithe, Arcanine, and a Krogunk. It's Looker and the police force. Our heroes are so excited to see them, and it doesn't take long for these adults to beat up the other adults. The trio does stick around to see if they can help in some way, but Jenny and Liquor tell the kids to stay out of this, as they're not even sure what they're dealing with right now. Plus, he doesn't want the kids to get hurt on his watch, because there'll be a lot of paperwork if they do. Now that Looker's here, Dawn reminds him that he didn't give them a way to contact him. Looker gives a sorta confused look before handing Dawn a business card, before turning his attention to looking for clues. At a quick glance, Dawn notices that it still doesn't have a way to contact him. She tries to bring it up to Looker again, but he's way too engrossed in his clue finding. So, with Team Galactic's plans foiled, they return to Floroma Town, where the following day, Dawn, Kenny, and Ash enter the contest. In the semifinals, Ash's Baneri faces off against Kenny's Piplup, and although Baneri is still stronger because of Thunder Punch, Ash is still focused on a regular battle rather than a performance battle, meaning that when the timer runs out, Kenny still has more points than Ash. The finals is between Dawn's Badoo and Kenny's Piplup. The battle is very back and forth, with Dawn having the slight edge most of the time. The battle finally comes to an end when Badoo is able to land a Leaf Storm on Piplup. While Piplup's trying to endure the attack, Badoo's bud grows bigger and glows green. It then stretches out and hits Piplup, knocking out the penguin. So Dawn is awarded the Floroma ribbon. And after the contest, all 3 boys ask her what move she used at the very end there. Dawn is unsure herself, but through the Pokédex, she learns that Badoo has learned Power Whip. Dawn then turns her attention to Kenny. She informs him that since she won the battle, Kenny can no longer refer to her as her nickname. Kenny, however, gives a very cocky chuckle as he states that he never agreed to that, and because she got lucky, he's not counting this as a loss. After the two argue for a bit, Kenny says that he's had enough, he's heading out. With the red hair boy gone, Ash frustratingly asks Dawn for some help, as he'd like to do better in contests. And not only is he salty about that loss, but his Baneri and Riolu are as well. Dawn is more than ecstatic to help, since at least one of them seems to have taken an interest in doing Pokemon contests. Barry nonchalantly replies that he has more fun watching them from the sidelines than actually being in them. With Team Galactic gone, their journey down Route 205 is pretty uneventful. Entering into Eterna Forest, Barry ends up spotting a Murkrow that he really wants to catch. Unfortunately, he ends up losing track of it, and because of this, they end up lost and can't find find the trail back. So because Barry's the one who got them lost on the first place, it's his job to get them back on the trail. Unfortunately, this only gets them more lost, forcing them to set up camp for the night. The following day is once again spent trying to find their way out. As night falls, the sky gets covered in dark clouds and it begins to pour. Running through the forest, they end up finding a chateau, and when they knock on the door, a man opens up. Not wanting them to be out on the rain, he allows them to come in. He informs them that he is the butler of this house and the master won't be back for a while, so they're allowed to stay the night here. After drying off, the servant treats them to what appears to be a very lavish feast. While they eat, the butler watches on and quietly chuckles eerily. Chimchar pops out of its ball to get some food, but it notices that the plates are empty. Ash, Barry, and Dawn are eating nothing but thin air. He tries to tell the others, but regardless of what he does, they don't listen to the monkey. After filling their bellies with a whole lot of nothing, the butler offers to escort them to their rooms. The second he turns the corner, the butler has disappeared. Barry then stops to tell the others that he can hear voices behind them. When he turns around, he sees nothing. He tells them that he's getting kinda creeped out, but when he turns around to look at the others, he realizes they're gone. Dawn loses track of Ash when she stops to look at a painting. Its eyes move, spooking the young girl as she bolts off. All three of them end up on different floors of the house. Dawn in the basement, Ash in the main floor, and Barry on the top floor. Each one of them have their own spooky experiences. Dawn gets haunted by a little girl, Ash gets stuff thrown at him and appliances come to life, while Barry gets chased down by foggy demon looking things. After a few hours of getting scared, the ghosts reveal themselves to be a mischievous Haunter and a Rotom just playing pranks on them. Realizing that the ghost types only wanted someone to play with, Dawn convinces them to give them some time to sleep, so the next morning they can start playing again. Around early noon, our heroes decide it's time to head out. This doesn't sit well with the ghosts as they want to keep playing, so they try to stop them. After a few illusions, Barry jokingly tells them that if they want to come along, they can play whenever they want. The ghost types talk it over for a second and ultimately decide to come. Mischievous joins Dawn, Haunter chooses Barry, and Rotom goes with Ash. Later that day, while Dawn's Badoo and Barry's Turtwig are battling, as this is how they're settling an argument, a woman suddenly comes out of nowhere, getting in the middle of the fight. She starts to fangirl over the grass types, and this is kind of confusing our heroes as she just came out of nowhere. The woman stops fangirling and introduces herself as Gardenia, a grass type trainer. After our heroes introduce themselves, she requests a double battle from both of them. Because of Gardenia getting in the middle of their fight, they had forgotten what the argument was even about, so they accept her request, and of course this battle doesn't end well for the two young trainers. Of course, Barry and Dawn start to argue with each other that it's the other's fault that they lost. But Gardenia points out that these two have no synergy when it comes to battling together. Barry is impatient and leaves himself wide open, while Dawn is trying too hard to cover for Barry, leaving herself wide open. Once she's done explaining it to them, Ash asks if he can battle her next. Gardenia accepts the challenge. However, before the battle can even begin, a Nuzleaf carrying a message shows up. After reading this, she apologizes to Ash that she has to leave, which disappoints him. She does inform him that if they ever want to battle again, just head to Eterna City, and she points in the direction of where it would be. After a long trek through the forest, they finally arrive at Eterna City. And that's where we're going to be leaving the story off for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I certainly did. I really enjoyed writing where they get to meet the ghost types. That was fun. So this part was also a little shorter than what I intended it to be. I was originally going to cover the Gardenia stuff, but I ran out of time in editing. So everything that happens in Eterna City, I've moved it to the third part, and I hope you guys enjoyed that whenever it comes out. Anyways, on to my plans for 2023, which honestly aren't that different from last year's. I want to finish up some what ifs I've done before. For instance, I really want to finish up the Ash and Red twins what if that I think got a part 3 a few days ago, as well as this series, and I might bring back the randomized Ash what if. I'm not sure yet, just give me some time. And I do want to start doing more collabs. I already got some people in mind. Anyways, I've already held you up here long enough, so remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.